In January 2007, Apple unveiled a phone built around a touchscreen, with no physical keyboard at all. By late 2007, Nokia controlled 40% of the global phone market. Its devices were everywhere, and the company seemed untouchable. In just 3 months, Nokia shipped more than 133 million phones, almost 1.5 million every day. Nokia was not asleep. Long before the iPhone, it was already building smartphones and mobile computers with email, web access, cameras, and full keyboards. In 2007, the Nokia N95 combined GPS, a 5-megapixel camera, video, mobile internet, and expandable storage. It was a technical powerhouse. On a specification sheet, Nokia often looked more advanced. Its phones offered more features, more models, and more choice for different customers. By every traditional measure, that looked like an advantage. But the market was beginning to reward something very different. Simple, consistent software that worked the same way on every device. The battle was no longer about how many features a phone had. It was about how easily people could use them. Symbian was not bad software. It had been engineered for phones with limited memory, modest processors, small screens, and many different hardware designs. But Nokia's smartphone experience had grown around physical keys, layered menus, and years of accumulated complexity. Turning that into a smooth, touch-first experience was no simple update. When Nokia moved Symbian toward touch, it was not starting from a blank page. It was placing a new interaction model on top of a system designed around keys, soft buttons, and deep menus. On paper, that sounded like an update. In the user's hand, it felt like a negotiation. And this was the deeper problem. Nokia was not designing for one target. It had keypads, QWERTY sliders, touchscreens, landscape layouts, operator variants, and different performance levels. Every product made sense on its own. But together, they turned the platform into a maze. For developers, fragmentation changed the equation. A huge Nokia audience was tempting, but the path to reach it was messy. Different devices, different software versions, different toolkits, and different behavior in the user's hand. Meanwhile, iOS and Android were selling a simpler promise: build for the platform and reach the platform. Then the battleground moved again. The phone was no longer just a device. It was the front door to a software marketplace. Apple had shown that apps could become a daily habit almost overnight. Android gave manufacturers a shared ecosystem to build around. Nokia still had enormous scale, but scale alone was no longer the gravity. Developers, users, payments, discovery, the store itself had become part of the product. Nokia did respond. In 2009, it launched the OV Store, a place for apps, games, music, and content. But Apple's advantage was no longer just the phone. It was the loop. Developers built apps, users downloaded them, revenue attracted more developers, and the platform became stronger every day. But Nokia was not blind to the future. Away from Symbian, its engineers had already been building Maemo, a Linux-based system for internet-first mobile devices. In 2010, Maemo merged into MeeGo, and by 2011, Nokia had the N9, a modern, swipe-driven phone that looked like a different future. The problem was not that Nokia had no alternative. It was that the alternative was never the main bet. By 2010, Nokia was trying to protect several futures at once. Symbian still carried the smartphone business. Series 40 served the mass market, Maemo was becoming MeeGo, and QT was supposed to connect the pieces. Each decision had logic on its own. Together, they divided attention, complicated priorities, and forced Nokia to compete with itself. In 2011, Nokia released the N9. It was elegant, modern, and built around gestures rather than buttons. Its swipe-driven interface felt less like an update to the old Nokia world and more like the beginning of a new one. But the N9 did not launch as the foundation of Nokia's future. It arrived after the company had already chosen another path. Nokia had built a glimpse of what came next, then walked away from it. In February 2011, Nokia's crisis was given a brutal new metaphor. In his burning platform memo, Stephen Elop argued that standing still was no longer an option. Apple was moving faster. Android was spreading everywhere. Symbian was falling behind. What had been a technical problem was now an open strategic emergency. Nokia knew it had to jump. The only question now was where. The first Lumia phones showed that Nokia could still build beautiful hardware. The design was clean, the colors were bold, the experience was different. But by then, smartphones were no longer judged by the device alone. They were judged by the ecosystem around it. And that was still where Nokia was weakest. And then the decline became measurable. In 2010, Nokia's devices and services business still generated more than 29 billion euros in net sales. By 2013, the phone business reported just over 10 billion. The fall was no longer a warning sign. It was the result. In September 2013, Nokia agreed to sell most of its phone business to Microsoft. The deal closed in April 2014. The company that had defined the mobile phone era no longer controlled the business that made it famous. Nokia did not run out of ideas. It ran out of time to align them, to choose one direction, commit to it, and move before the market moved on.